All right, everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Family Movie Time podcast. We have a special guest today. MJoy is with us, and MJoy is a musician, songwriter. You can find MJoy's music on all your favorite music platforms, and also MJoy yourself on social media. Um, is there anything you would like to say first before we begin about your musicality or creative endeavors?
Oh, Jeff, thank you so much for the opportunity. Yeah, I just think back at the time where you saw me play at the Fireside Lounge in Alameda. That was so fun. So thank you for your ongoing support, and thanks for, just having these conversations with everyday people that appreciate art and media and all the ways that entertainment, can look. For me, I really love making indie pop sort of alternative music songs that speak to very universal personal experiences and how the ripple effects of these things, of like grappling with them and healing from them, impacts everyone in your life, not only yourself but also everyone in your community. So when we like work on ourselves, it helps everyone around us. That's basically the punchline to the effect that I aim to have with my song. So um yeah, I appreciate the intro here and the opportunity to just shoot the shoot the stuff with you here over this awesome movie.
So today we're going to talk about Sister Act, the original Sister Act film.
Yes.
And my understanding it's one of your favorite films.
Oof,
Can
yes.
you talk about why first the first question, why it's one of your favorite movies?
Oh my gosh, thank you for asking. Yeah, no, this movie is hilarious. So I'm such a comedy fan. I love comedy so much. Um, and the amount of laughs that this movie gets out of me. Um, in fact, I just want to watch it right now, Jeff. If we could just put it on and make this a reaction podcast to that movie. I love it so much. Yeah, and the musicality. I think too, there's something about the fact that Whoopi is actually not like the strongest singer, right? She's actually not like a huge vocalist, but in terms of singing, but she carried that movie on what she can do. And I selfishly reflect on myself in terms of my own vocal performance as an artist, as a singer-songwriter. I'm kind of in the Gwen Stefani, J Lo camp. Uh, Ani DeFranco, where we kind of have these like light and bright, kind of airy voices. We're not dealing with a bunch of depth, really. Um, Literally no shame, no criticism, no judgment there, but just like an observation, like, oh, right, a different quality of voice. And still how much impact it can have. I mean, Whoopi really showed that in her performance, and how she took on that role and that leadership in that movie. It was beautiful. So I loved the musicality. I loved the humor. That has not changed, Jeff, from my youth. I tell you what, I want the same kind of entertainment that I did when I was 6. So that hasn't changed.
Did you first see the movie when you were 6 years old?
I kind of just pulled that out of the bucket. Um, let's see, that was the early 90s, right? So I'm not like super film buffed out with details and everyone's actual names. But yeah, I think it was right around that time, right around that time. But I will say the moment it came into our home, the moment we saw it as a family, like my parents bought that VHS. It was in the collection, it was in the library. And that VHS tape we got our money's worth. That thing got run into the ground. That tape is worn out. So we watched it a lot. So, whenever it was in our house from that point on, it was a repeat go-to for comfort for
1990,
years to come.
yeah, 1992 was when it was released.
Okay.
Um,
There
I'll
we
sh
go.
I'll share some trivia and behind the scenes tidbits.
Love
Um,
it.
the original the original role was meant to be for Bette Midler
Oh,
and then changed to Whoopi Goldberg.
wow.
And also, the main
Mhm.
location was changed from Chicago to San Francisco.
I did not know that. This is amazing. And thank you for bringing up the location. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm banging on the table. Not supposed to do that when filming a podcast. I'm just getting really animated and amped because that was a whole other thing. I think that was the first time I saw my city, my area represented as a kid on TV. That was another thing because I was just like, whoa, we're on the map. And like, oh, other people know about San Francisco. I mean, now I know, right? Like San Francisco is a destination for everyone globally if they haven't been there yet. But that iconic, I think it was, if I'm correct, if I remember correctly, I think it was the Bay Bridge that scene, like, because typically, in media, San Francisco has a role as a city in the story. They like really hone in on the Golden Gate Bridge because it's so beautiful. But I think there were scenes of like just the rink-a-dink gray Bay Bridge, which I was like, yeah, that's the one we use. That's the one my family uses. Like, thank you, right? And realistically, that's the one they would have used coming from Nevada, into from the east, like into SF. So, I mean, it could be, right? So, yeah, that was another piece that I really appreciated seeing the local scenes of someone so cool like Sister Mary Clarence. Like, oh wow, she's staying so close to us right now, in her refuge. Yeah.
Also, Dolores's group is named the Ronells, which is a combination of the names
Mm.
of two other female groups from the 60s, the Ronettes and the Shirelles.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Very cool. That whole vibe that it was a trio, if I remember correctly, that they evoked. I have this this keen memory of me watching it for the umpteenth time, and I'm mirroring as a little kid the choreography of like the backup singers and singing along. And my dad like saw me, he's like, ah, look at her, and it was like funny. He was like, um, he could not help but remark on how, I'm like mimicking these dance moves. And I was kind of like, ooh, I got caught. Like could not help myself. Because yeah, and I just found everything to be so infectious in a great way about that movie. And I love the kind of doo-wop, vibe that they sang. And it was all these like great covers. There was like a lot of mashup things that they did, which was really fun. And the way, and so accurate, right? The way that they showed like this great performance, hair, makeup, costumes, everything looks amazing. It's, above and beyond. They were beautiful. They sounded great. And, to have like that flat response to like people just smoking, paying attention to their gaming, right? And the bets that they're doing. That's something that I hear is common for all types of performers, in those like casino type settings. So, they really captured that really well.
When you saw the movie early in your life, were you already singing and trying to like be
Mm,
musical?
I think so. It's really cool because I knew that I would be musical in my life. I just knew in my bones, and that inner knowing has been consistent. It's been one of the main things that's been so consistent in my life. So I love that. And so I think as a young person, seeing particularly women, right, like doing things in music, um, from an early age, it's just like I always knew like, oh, cool, great. I'll have a place. I'll have a place. I'll have a place. My mom, who right, your friend, my mom, is actually the first one that like my first exposure to hip hop was through my mom. And that hip hop exposure was through Salt and Pepper. So she showed me like she put on a cassette tape when I was a child. And so I often remark on that, on how my first exposure to hip hop was through a female hip hop group, a woman group, right? And so I love that because it kind of just like there was never any question like, oh, what's our role here, in music and entertainment. It was just like, oh, great, awesome, from the get-go, right? I saw representation that was, empowering to me, and I think as a queer artist myself, like, I identify as a queer lesbian. um I the ongoing kind of blossoming of queer participation and representation, in the cultural conversation is like, it's an awesome path to be on. It's a great thing to participate in and like have a part and a role in. And it's powerful. And we just never know the impact that we're having on people. I know that that's happening. I know that there's things that I do that, I'm trying to be increasingly visible, right, in all that I do. And having this conversation with you, Jeff, and this awesome opportunity that you're offering me, like that's an extension of that, right? It's like it's about visibility and my willingness as an artist, and like with my messages that I want to share and the impact that I want to have, like having willingness to just open myself up, and be visible. I think that other people's visibility begets more visibility, for those that, want to take steps to open that up. And I've seen you really do that a lot too in the local scene, speaking of San Francisco, just like, and the surrounding Bay Area. I see you make connections and share things and show up and provide opportunities, for yourself and the broader community. That is awesome. So yeah, I love it. I love it. I love that we have this opportunity to appreciate, this movie, but also tap into, what else is underneath that? Why do we love what we love? And, how can we also create things that we love, and but also that, resonates with more folks. So yeah, thank you for that question. Yeah, I definitely think that it has helped me musically for sure.
And you have multiple family members that, you know, explored music or made careers out
Mm.
of music. Can you talk
Yeah.
about how deep that runs in your family, music?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Both sides of the family have appreciation, a practice, a relationship, and a love for music. So I'll be as linear as I can, even though that's not totally how my brain works. But my brother, I'll just start with my peer in the fam. So yeah, I'm 4 years older than him. It was just the two of us. So we're a little sibling duo, and he is great at the piano. I will say, I remember growing up, like knowing that I was going to play, music, and he was showing a lot of promise in that regard as well. Um, I took some piano lessons. He really took to piano more. And I think the reason for that is because of my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, Don Alberts, the late and great Don Alberts. Talk about visibility and like having an impact. He, and throughout the Pacific Northwest jazz community and jazz world, has made quite a name for himself while he was here, right? Um, and there were so many like opportunities that came up for him because of, his mastery of the way that he writes and the way that he plays jazz piano slash piano in general. Um, yeah, he was just so committed his entire life to writing. And as a songwriter for myself, I often think on him like, okay, I wrote a song this month. If I were Grandpa Don, that's what we called him, Don Alberts, like if I were him, like how many would he have written this month, right? How many did he write this month? Like when he was live, right? So yeah, he keeps a fire because he was so prolific. He keeps a fire under my butt in a lot of ways. And I think he would be happy to know that. Sorry, I just banged the desk again. I'm so passionate, Jeff, about this. So yeah, my brother Devin really looked up to my grandfather Don Alberts, our grandfather, and so I think that might be a way, or a reason why piano like really resonated with him too. I think that's probably a part. It's just, and I think he would agree, right, if he was on this call right here, right now. But shout out to Devin if you're listening in the playback. I love it. Yeah. So it's really cool to see that now. For the Grandpa Don Devin connection, my brother, like for me, my biggest inspiration within the family, it's tied between my father, John Watala, who's a bassist, a jazz bassist, and has literally that's been his job. Like I love the story that he told me. He was, I think, 16, 15. He and his parents took him out to like a jazz show. He saw a jazz bassist on the stand-up bass and he said, hey, that's what I'm going to do. He just made the decision. He knew in his bones that this was his path and stuck with it. I love that story. I heard that as a kid. I was just like, oh, I have like a similar resolve, right? Like that's great how this is just like running in our family. And my dad's bass playing definitely it informs my sort of rhythmic guitar playing. The right hand rhythm and articulation that I have going on when it's just me, my guitar, when I'm writing songs, my whole aim is to write a song and play it. Like if I don't have a band, if I don't have a producer, and it just comes down to me and a rink-a-dink guitar one day to communicate what I'm trying to do and get across. I want to be able to rhythmically play really well. So I'm not like a shredder. I'm not like a lead guitarist. I don't go up and down the neck with all these scales and fancy trills or whatever. But I focus on my lyrics and I focus on my rhythmic guitar playing. At the end of the day, if it just boils down to that, I want that to be stellar. So that's sort of my superpower, I feel like, in the musical conversation in our family, and that's my contribution. But my dad's bass playing completely informs like the kind of funky, groovy flavor that my singer-songwriter stuff has. So when people see me, they may not, and several people have told me this, like, whoa, I didn't know what to expect. With how you look and how the music comes out, how your singing voice comes out, but I like it. I like what I'm hearing. And so I guess I don't know what folks are expecting, but MJoy as an artist has so much jazz, so much like funk and like Motown, hip hop and new wave rock in the pot of our sort of familial ear, so to speak. So that's what's brewing, and that's what informs my work. And so my dad has a huge hand in that. But then on the other hand, is like, and this is where my mom plugs in, because like my dad exposed me to a lot of stuff, but also my mom. So even though my mom's like, not an instrumentalist or whatever, she's got a lot of rhythm. She's got a lot of like natural musicality, like in her energy. Like that's cool to think about, right? Like the different ways that music manifests. If you have an ear to receive it, right? Because like as performers and artists, it's awesome making stuff just for us. It's also awesome when it can be received. My mom is like a great example of like someone who can appreciate just someone that's doing their thing. And she's got her own taste, and like it may not always match up with mine personally. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But as everyone has their own taste, like she's just she's got like a wide appreciation for like, oh, well, this is just objectively good, and I can recognize that, right? Um, so so she showed me like what my uncle's band was. Like I remember again being a kid, being in our front room in this like home off of Central Ave in Alameda, and growing up there. Um, we were in this really nice kind of upper middle class area, and on some level that kind of felt like from a class perspective, like, whoa, like we feel different, right, than our neighbors. But I always felt like we were the fucking cool ones. Sorry, I don't know if we can cuss, but we're the cool ones. Like we have all this like, I don't know, like flavor and artistry and just like creativity, and like there's always like sound and music and rhythm like flowing through our household. Everyone else on the block like quiet as a damn mouse. It's crickets. I can't tell if there's a pulse in this freaking house. I know that when they look at us, it's a little bit sideways. I don't know what their personality is. I can tell like boom, we have a life force flowing through us, right? So music also gave me a sense of like of power, a little bit of social power in a way that was like interesting, right? Like at the end of the day, no one can deny us this. That's kind of how I felt. I picked that up as a child. And my mom, um, she showed me my uncle's band -1. So, right, they have been a thing since the 80s in the San Francisco, San Jose Bay Area, like skate rock punk scene. Um, what I love about -1, and like they, first of all, they're still a thing. So years later, that like, even though it hasn't been like consistently like all through the years, because people have lives and things change and their struggles and all that good stuff, it's still a thing. -1, you can still look them up, play their music. My uncle has more streams than I freaking do. He doesn't go on TikTok and say, hey guys, listen to me, like I do. But and I'm saying that like, tongue in cheek. Like he deserves that. He's been in the game for so long, right? Like he's earned kind of like to have this like at this point effortless baseline of streams happening of his music, because he's a great artist. The musicians that he's played with him -1, they're great. So I was gonna say too, like coming up in the punk scene, right? Like punk is a very much like an energy, a vibe, a genre that's clear, easy to pick out, right? And easy to hear. For his contribution in that scene, he had like a new wave sound that was kind of like alt rock. It was more melodic and like a cleaner, I don't know if this is, yeah, but that's just the word that's coming up for me. Like a cleaner, more like alt rock, melodic, like song centered um piece. Whereas like with punk, right, it's like it's message centered, but it's like it's punching you in the face rhythmically and like, with the distortion on the guitar. And there's just like the -1 aesthetic like made me excited about punk coming through that avenue of just like, oh, I can hear the lyrics more, and it's still like punk messaging, but like in a more sing-songy melodic way, and still groovy, still rocking, like still hitting you in the face lovingly with like, the badass artistry that they're doing with great drums, like great bass, great lead guitar. But it's just a different flavor. And I feel like I not only inherited sort of like similar qualities in the light, bright vocals that I was mentioning earlier that I have. My uncle has that like as well in his voice, like for like his male voice, right? Like it's he's got his own version of that, like higher registers, like stuff, more head, throat, voice sounding he kind of lives up there. I live up there. Like we both have like a similar sound in that regard. Um, and also too with a little bit of genre bending as well. Like I do that. I try to stay in my lane just to be more marketable and like, hey, this is clearly this genre. I don't really do that, Jeff. I don't know how to do that. So, Dana had my uncle, Dana Albertson -1, like he created his own like kind of career and continues as a like an elder, right? Continues to do that. So that's like another beautiful thing about music. Hey, if you have something to say, if you have a perspective, you have skills, it doesn't matter. Like I just want to say this for the artists in the back, like if this is helpful at all. He said, because it really freed me up. He said when I was a kid, and I took this to heart, he was like, so never feel shame for wanting to make money from the thing that you love. When he told me that, I was a teenager and I was like, oh, like I didn't realize I was completely queued up to feel shame for wanting to make money off of like being a visible out artist. And when he told me that, I just remember the lift off my shoulders. I didn't even realize that I needed that lift. And he told me that, and I was like, oh my God, yeah, I was going to be shame-based about that. I don't need to be shame-based about that. Great. And he also said, there's always going to be a better guitarist. There's always going to be a better bassist. There's going to be a better drummer, a better singer. He was like, but I want to be the best songwriter I can be because no one has my story. No one has my perspective. No one's going to match up the words the way that I'm going to arrange the words because it's my own making, right? And he was like, and you can be that way too. And I was just like, man, that's a key to freedom right there. Because yeah, I am not, again, like I'm not a shredder. I play rhythm guitar. I know some chords. I do some cool things. I studied bass. Um, because of the influence of my father, for sure. I studied bass at Humboldt State University in their music program under Xiaowei Wu, who I don't think works there anymore, but he is an amazing Pacific Northwest bass jazz bassist as well, and friends with my dad and like great human being. Love Xiaowei Wu. But yeah, he worked with me a lot, and I think the bass playing informs, my rhythmic guitar playing, but and my melodic delivery. Like I have very rhythmic melodic delivery. But yeah, that you see like all the tentacles, all the loving like sort of arms on this single octopus that is our collective familial musical expression and experience and extension of the universe, of universal intelligence, right? How these different arms just span out to be a really cool octopus in this universe. Yeah, I think yeah, we've got a lot going on in the family, and there's more that I could say, but I just kind of want to pause there and thank you for this opportunity to just like reflect on this because I'm just thinking about all my family and ancestors, right? Like everyone that's done so much work and mastery to get where they are and the ripple effects that it's had on me.
You're welcome, and thank you for sharing so much about the musical legacy in your family. My next question for the film Sister Act, what would you say if somebody's never seen the movie, could you describe some of your favorite scenes?
If someone hasn't seen the movie, I'm immediately inviting them over so that we can have a movie night and I will make popcorn because what I love to do, it's my birthday month, and I'm literally emailing friends like, hey, when are we gonna have a sleepover? There's some stuff we need to see for the umpteenth time, because that is my comfort, like favorite thing to do. Um, I I love so many parts of this. I love, like oh my God, I think I really love when they sneak out and go to the bar across the street and like dance. It's so hilarious to see, sort of like, I guess it's like a cultural shock of like these nuns, right, that live in the convent. They never really leave the convent, and so when they go across the street and find Dolores, like she just needs a break from like the stuffy atmosphere that she finds herself in now. And so she's just like hanging out. She's in her nun wear. I'm not sure what it's called, but because like that's the clothes she has. But
Her habit.
oh, is that what is it?
And
Oh,
one of the original titles of the film was let me oh no, sorry to rephrase. The
hmm.
Mexican and Brazilian title for the movie translates as Change of Habit.
Change of habit. Wow. Oh my God, that's great.
Anyway, I'll let you continue.
That's
Sorry.
great. Oh my God, no problem. Yeah, no, I love this. I definitely love seeing her have a drink at the bar and then have like her two like besties, there come in and just be shocked at what they're seeing and just like really shy and timid. And but then they got excited about the music in the bar. They saw a jukebox and they're like, oh, this is our universal language. They start dancing with people love them. um I loved that. I think another part of that too is like, I snuck out as a kid. I was like rebellious and stuff. And, there was a part of me that's just like, yeah, I get that. I probably would have snuck out too if it were me. So yeah, I really love that. I love the community building scene as well. It was the musical montage with the Just a Touch of Love. I love that song so much. And yeah, they're just like building. She like struck up a lot of success collectively with the nuns, and they were making a ton of money for the community and being really helpful. Of course, that we're back on the theme of visibility. The reason why someone might not be visible is that it opens them up to all things, all energies, not just positive. So, for her in this movie, she risked being found out by her abuser, really. I mean, that's the intense part of this, is like it was a domestic violence situation, right, that she was dealing with, that I feel like we don't typically, as a broader, more general conversation, have that as a piece of like what I hear. And when we hear about like Sister Act and talk about it, that was a domestic abuse situation. He was sending out a hit for her. That's not okay. That's really scary, right? And she was leaving a really intense situation that, in the humor of the movie, it was like padded with all this ha ha he he, but really, that's something that people really do, like women, and really do have to grapple with. And also like in queer relationship, not to be so like um binary about the gender stuff. But just, yeah, um that's an intense backdrop of the film. Um but yeah, I think also too, uh I loved seeing the development of these singers as they were building their choir. And I loved seeing them nail their performances and have the community just naturally gravitate, to them. Um, I'm curious, Jeff, I would love to know what some of your favorite scenes are too.
I I hadn't seen the movie in a long time. When I rewatched
Yeah.
it, the Hail Holy Queen scene is probably
Yes.
maybe the strongest, and just the kind of the energy level, the amount of people, the way it develops. You have Sally Field, Merge Redmond, Madeline Sherwood. Um,
Mm.
and it just kind of like goes on, and you're not sure like how big or how kind of sweeping is this going to be. So
Yeah.
that one definitely I would say.
Yes.
The
Yes.
the director, interestingly, to give the director
Mm.
some attention,
Yes.
Emile Ardolino was the same
Hmm.
director as Dirty Dancing, 1987,
Oh,
1987 Dirty Dancing,
cover
and
my eyes.
Three Men and a Little Lady from 1990.
Okay, did you see that one, Jeff? Because I haven't seen
I
that.
I have not seen that one.
Okay.
I don't know if I mean, as a kid, I remember seeing clips of it on television, but
Hmm.
I don't think I've seen the whole film.
Right, right. Neither have I. But yeah, I appreciate. I didn't realize the Dirty Dancing was also him. But yeah, I did a little brush up on this as well because it's been a while since I've seen this movie as well. Even though I've seen it probably 42 times in my life. But but yeah, and this is where, right, like the cinema files, is that what it's called? Or like, movie buffs or whatever, like, folks can nerd out here in this realm. I've never been oriented in that way, but I will say, like, this film is always gonna have a place in my heart. I saw that you also did like a Miss Doubtfire episode. Like, I don't know how well that movie ages now, right? But it was something that because Robin Williams is such a genius, right? Like that piece of cinema is just going to live on as sort of proof of that, right? Like of his genius while he was here. And I had another scene pop up in my mind that I think is just so we can't have this episode go out without acknowledging the prayer. Like when she says the prayer before the meal, and she's just pulling from all these like well-known phrases and throwing it, into the prayer in hopes to like look legit or whatever. That that will still have me in tears. Yeah, Jeff, I'm back to like, hey, we gotta watch the first movie. I will say I'm really excited to have learned that I'm sorry, Sister Act 3 is going to be a thing. So it's looking like 2025, maybe end of 2025. Man, I cannot wait.
What do you think? So we have a little bit of time left.
Yeah.
The sequel to Sister Act was made like the next year, 1993.
Right.
So fast.
Right.
What do you think about the sequel?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I love it. I love Lauren Hill so much. I'm so glad she had that role. What an amazing time. Um, and like point in time, just artistically, that was yeah, no, I loved that one as well. It's so good, and yet it didn't stick to my like typical like consistent rotation as much. I think just because like as a kid, like the Sister Act, the original Sister Act like really hooked me. As like one of those comfort go back tos, rewatches, like we can do this effortlessly. We owned the VHS of that one. We didn't own the VHS of Sister Act 2. Um and so that's just like another thing too, just like basic access to that. We didn't have cable TV. And so I know that that was like another way that people saw movies at home during that time. So yeah, but I would watch that one a lot too. It doesn't pop up in my memory. It's like, oh yeah, we got to go to that one because Sister Act 1, right? The original just has such a spot in my heart. But yeah, no, the second one was just such a masterpiece as well.
anything specific about Whoopi Goldberg's performance that you want to
Mm,
mention or speak on?
mm, Yes. I mean, I mentioned, right, like I love comedians so much. And I think like there was something about it felt like effortless, right? Like she really was in that role in like a way that hooked me, that it felt believable, even though it's like, it's a silly comedy, but there was no like suspension of like having to suspend like any kind of questioning or disbelief or whatever, because like she just fit like a glove into that role. That's really interesting to like learn that Bette Midler might have been that too. And I could see that, but I love that I love ultimately that it was Whoopi. That seems like a creator, the higher power in charge of that, making that call ultimately. Um yeah, and again, just like being moved by, Whoopi's like, even if her voice, even if she's not per se like a singer, and she doesn't identify herself as a singer, um, you know, she was able to plug in with this natural like kind of musicality that she tapped into in that role. And, I think that in its own way can be really inspiring for a lot of people. I just recently did this post on my social media about how, like, with all these vocal takes, that I'm doing for like songs that I'm getting ready to put out there, some new songs. I was listening back to some of them and I was just like, wow, like I've learned how to hone my instrument, right? Like my vocals more over the years, and have gotten professional coaching from a couple different people. And it's all like moved the needle forward for me, right? Like that's another cool thing. Like no matter what voice you're born with, like you can hone it, you can get better. And that, sometimes some people just need extra help, right? I'm one of those people. Um, but it made me reflect on how, wow, I don't have to be perfect to get the job done. I don't have to be perfect to start. Like I used to have that thinking like, oh no, things have to be perfect before we even like, take the first step, but that's just so not true. And like with what I've learned about like great, like high performers, amazing iconic artists, Whoopi Goldberg is in that because of her artistry as like a comedian and actress. Um, you just don't but I'm thinking in this context, I'm thinking about me as like a vocalist. Like if I waited, right, to be like, okay, I feel like perfectly in tune with my instrument, like now I'm gonna start writing, now I'm gonna start singing. Like I'd be 88. So we gotta do it now. Today we have what we are working with, what we have access to today. What can we do today to move the needle forward, but also still take risks, while honing skills and turning inward? How can we also, turn outward and share the journey? So yeah, I love the kind of like offbeat, like I'm not, you know, the perfect singer like Whoopi, but she's leading a choir, right? Like, and like getting the arrangement and like organization of that, or Whoopi's character, right? Like of that configuration of that group of nuns, in such a beautiful way. I just There's a lot to take from that. So my life journey, Jeff, is always to be like, how can I watch as much comforting and consume as much comforting, hilarious entertainment as possible, get inspired by it, and then stay busy and productive as an artist? How do I watch TV and also just be a full-time productive artist? That's that is the ongoing sort of dance that I do in terms of my consumption of entertainment, but also my production of my own.
Before we go, and I'm glad you brought up content that's comforting and encouraging and inspiring.
Mm.
If you suggest to anybody out there who's listening other
Mm.
films that would be live action, family
Mm.
friendly, whether they're a musical or not, other
Mm.
films that will watch for those comfort reasons or for inspiration. Is there any titles you could put out there?
Ooh. You know what? Okay. Jeff, I need you to know, I never look at things through a family friendly lens. Like that's not a concern I have. I'm like, what has the most cussing? I'd like to learn new cuss words in this viewing, if I may. So just so you know where I'm at, but yeah, I have an indoor cat and a partner who's like basically my wife. So we're all grown here. My cat has lived more life than I have. She started out feral on the streets. She had a litter of kittens. When I met her, she was smoking a cigarette saying like, huh, what can you do for me? I've seen it all, but now we're all like grown women in this house. So I don't, I don't know about the family friendly piece, but I can say, like, I just rewatched Liar Liar because I love Jim Carrey. Netflix had a little notification like, hey, this is going to be taken down soon. I think I do own the DVD to all these movies that we've mentioned so far. So I have the DVD, I believe, of Sister Act of Mrs. Doubtfire, and Liar Liar, but I was just like, hey, I don't have a TV right now. So it's just like when I saw that on Netflix, it was like some night I was just like doing the dishes or something and I put that on and it was great. It was lovely. Um I think what I would say to this question is like, hey, there's a lot going on in the world right now. It's really tough, right? Just energetically. I think whether we're individually in touch with the level of grief that we've rightfully got hanging over our heads collectively, whether we're personally in touch with that or not, it doesn't matter. It's there. So that's what's top of mind for me. It's like when I go into entertainment mode, I want to be intentional about it. So sure, we need moments of like kind of numbing out or celebrating with family, right? If you do have kids or if you have little ones around you, we need time to make it just about them and watch kid friendly stuff. If we have youth and little ones in our lives, like 100%. Um, when it comes to like our own individual sort of like I'm assuming like broadly like adult, right? Comfort. I want things that benefit us in that I hope that they can inspire some kind of action. So I'm not depending on mainstream content, right? To show us the roadmap of like, hey, this is how you get in touch with your grief and like deal with fascism or like end a war. But I think that anything that can inspire your own individual action, your own individual, like, hey, this is how I can be more visible in my community, organize with my community, whatever it is. I think honing in and tapping into the energy that we see in our media of choice, that can be a way to sort of flip some restful time and channel it into productivity when it's time to be productive. Sometimes it's time to like really just relax and unplug, but then how can we like harness what we got from that unplugged time and channel it into something, we're building change, you know? I have ADHD. I recently got a diagnosis and I learned that we're kind of obsessed with like being the best that we can possibly be and like being productive in a ton of ways, even when we probably don't need to worry about that. So that's another layer to like where I'm like why, I talk the way I do, but I love that about myself and I just want to harness that right, that part of myself as much as I can. So anyway, I might have gone over time, Jeff, but I really appreciate you just giving me the floor. And I think it's so fascinating what came up in this conversation just from a movie.
Hey, and Liar Liar is a PG-13 movie, I do want to say.
All right, so only the teenagers, the rest of y'all go to bed. Go to bed. It's the teenagers and adults that are watching this.
Thank you so much for your time today, MJ. I know it's still the morning, but I'm glad we were able to get up and do this on a Saturday morning.
No, I'm an early riser because we got to get that opportunity, baby, whatever it is. I really appreciate it, Jeff. It was really lovely connecting with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'll let you go for now, and we'll be in touch, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Enjoy yourself, Jeff.
Do you want to mention real quick where people can find your music, or where you would prefer they go, or if you have a website where they could go to maybe contact you to book you for a music show?
Oh, well, thank you so much, Jeff. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, yeah, if folks have an Instagram, I'm MJoy Yourself Music. MJoy Yourself is like MJoy, one Y, all one word all together. MJoy Yourself Music on Instagram. I have a link tree there in my bio that has like a ton of things, right, that you can do. I have a Patreon. I have my live show calendar. But people DM me when they're interested in either collaborating or scheduling me for a show. So that's a great way. I have full visibility into that. I'm on Facebook under MJoy. I also, I love watching the numbers on Spotify rise steadily. That's really exciting for me. So if you are a Spotify person and you follow me on Spotify, just straight up MJoy on Spotify, that's great. That is great. I love it. And I'm also on TikTok, and YouTube. So I'm pretty much everywhere. And I do see and answer my DMs, and for anyone that just wants to continue this conversation, I'm really into it. I invite it. And I also love connecting not only with music fans, but also other artists as well. So, the conversation continues. I just really appreciate this, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's been awesome. And I hope you have a beautiful day.
Thanks. I'll be in touch. Take
Awesome. You too. You too. All
Bye
right.
for now.
Bye for now.